What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Sucker Free Sports Talk. Welcome back after Thanksgiving. I took last week off for the holiday. Hope everybody had a good holiday and enjoyed watching some sports on that Thanksgiving. Continue to watch Chicago sports disappoint. But with that, on today's episode, we will talk about the Chicago Cubs still waiting to sign a shortstop and a first baseman. We will talk about the Chicago Bulls continuing to be an embarrassment to the city, continuing to be a dead-end team. We will talk about a what could have been season for Illinois football. But before all that, we have to talk about the Chicago Bears. Bears injury report continues to mount. Justin Fields sat out last Sunday. I predicted that. I think he will miss this upcoming game against the Packers as well. Darnell Mooney, he broke his ankle last week against the Jets. He kind of got rolled up on there. He will enter IR. He will most likely be gone for the rest of the season. Disappointing to see Darnell get lost. Eddie Jackson, he went down with a non-contact foot injury at first. It was thought to be just a sprain, thought to have dodged a bullet there, but then it came out that it was that Liz Frank injury that will require surgery. Eddie Jackson will hit IR, and Eddie Jackson will most likely miss the rest of the season. And then Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon are two defensive back rookies. They are both in concussion protocol. They both missed last week's game. They're still in protocol, so we'll see what happens, but don't expect to see them this Sunday against the Packers as well. Like I said, the Bears dropped their fifth in a row against the New York Jets. Bears kept it close in that first half, but eventually that defense was too much to overcome. That bad Bears defense, historically bad. Without Justin Fields, you can see it. They just are not a competitive team at any level right now. That defense is so bad, and Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator. For some reason, if you look around the Chicago Bears media, if you look around Chicago sports media, these guys are steering clear of any criticism. And I don't really understand that. Now, the defense is devoid of talent. I'll give them that. There is not any talent up and down that roster. You look at it right now, their best player is probably Jack Sanborn. That's pretty sad. But at the same time, you have to look at these two coaches. They're brought here as the defensive coaches. You have a defensive head coach in Matt Eberflus. And the Bears fans and Bears media are letting them slide and not asking them the right questions and not giving them the criticism that I think they deserve. You look at it, and yeah, like I said, they're devoid of talent, but what have they done for player development? You look at guys that started the season like Dominique Robinson and Trevis Gibson that started the season off pretty good. In that San Francisco game, they both had some sacks. Dominique Robinson had 2 sacks that game, and what has he done since? He hasn't had a sack since. He hasn't done anything since. These young guys, you got to look for them to be an audition for next year at this point, and they're just not doing anything. And you have to look at the coaching staff and wonder, what are you guys doing with these guys in practice? How are you coaching them up game to game? What are you telling them they're doing wrong where they haven't made a play? Jalen Johnson, Dominique Robinson, like I said. Even guys like Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. Jaquan's had a pretty good season, but these guys just aren't making plays right now. And you have to look at that coaching staff and wonder, what are you guys doing for player development? And then schematically. Schematically, I think this defense is bad as well. I like that 4-3 scheme. Same scheme that Lovie Smith kind of ran back in the day with Chicago. I'm a fan of that. I like that more than the 3-4. But at the same time, week to week, the Bears are just giving up 30 points easy. Giving up 30 points to the New York Jets and Mike White, making Mike White look like Tom Brady out there. It was pretty sad to see. Either way, either guys aren't being coached hard enough or guys aren't in the right spot. But either way, schematically, it's just a simple game of pitch and catch right now against this Bears defense. Wide receivers are open non-stop. Something's got to change there. I hope we can see some improvement going into next year with this Bears defense. And you might have to look at a new defensive coordinator if you're Matt Eberflus. And you might have to look yourself in the mirror if you're Matt Eberflus and wonder, what am I doing wrong here schematically? But with that, the Bears move on to play the Packers at noon this Sunday in Chicago. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what the Bears' record is. I don't care about draft stock. I don't care about any of that. It's always beat the Packers. That is the number one goal going into any season. That was the one thing I loved about Lovie Smith, was his first press conference when he was hired as the Bears head coach he said our number one goal is to beat the Packers. I love that. This is what the season's all about. I don't care about draft stock or where you're at in the draft. You got to go out here and beat the Packers at any cost. Go in there and take care of this game. Packers might be without their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I know as Chicago fans, we all love to hate Aaron Rodgers. He was in Chicago last year looking at those fans telling him, I own you. Don't forget about that. But you might see Jordan Love this week because Aaron Rodgers hurt his ribs in last week's game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he has some torn cartilage there in his ribs. That can be a very painful injury. So we'll see what happens. I know Aaron wants to play, but Jordan Love did look good in last week's game when he came in for Aaron Rodgers. He threw a couple touchdown passes. Looked really good, really accurate. A lot better than what we've seen from him in his brief time with the Packers the last couple years. He looked really good against the Eagles. It would be fun to see a Justin Fields, Jordan Love matchup. I don't anticipate seeing that, though. I think Fields still misses this game. I still think he's in a lot of pain. He's talked this week to the media and said, he's feeling a little bit better, but still, I don't think you risk worsening that injury at all, even though some people are saying, you can't mess it up any more than it already is. Still, I wouldn't risk putting Justin out there. His biggest attribute is a runner, and if he can't run effectively, if he can't get downhill, then you might as well start Trevor Siemian again. Both teams are just having really bad years. I think this would have been a really good year to have a competitive Bears team because of how bad the Packers are. They are struggling. They only have 4 wins on the year, one more than the Bears. This is the least amount of excitement I've had going into a Bears-Packers week, I must say, being where both teams are. But at the same time, you got to go in here, win this game, beat the Cheeseheads, hit them where it hurts, win this game. But ultimately, this is my prediction for the game. I think the Bears lose 34-21. That defense is just too bad right now. Like I said, any team, no matter who it is in the NFL, is going to put up 30 points on the Bears right now, and Trevor Siemian isn't good to keep pace with that score. So that's the Bears. Let's look at another season loss for the Bears and how this team could possibly start to build in the offseason. Yeah, it's been a rough year. Right now, the Bears are pegged at number 2 in the draft. I don't think they win another game this year, so I think they stay in that position, even though I want them to win this Sunday. If I was the Bears GM and Ryan Poles, I give everything to defense in the offseason. Every draft pick, everything I have in free agency, I put it all towards defense. That's how bad this defense is. Yeah, if you want to put a couple late-round picks towards receiver or pick up a running back in free agency or something like that, or offensive lineman, yeah, that's okay, but all your capital, all your draft capital, all your free agency stock, I would put into this defense. So with that, let's look at some defensive linemen in this upcoming draft that the Bears could possibly target. In this episode, we'll focus on defensive linemen. I think that's the Bears' biggest need. In future episodes, we'll cover a couple more positions like cornerback and offensive lineman. But for this episode, we'll focus on the defensive line, starting with number 1. My best defensive lineman in this draft, Jalen Carter. He's the defensive tackle from Georgia. This guy's an absolute stud. Strong, lean, quick interior lineman. NFL comp for me is Aaron Donald. I know Aaron Donald has been one of the best players of all time on defense, but this guy has the same body type, same type of athleticism. He should go top 5 in the draft. So we'll see what happens if Bears can stay at number 2 there. I would take this guy or trade back, maybe a couple spots, and you'll still be able to get him. He just leaves offensive linemen looking stupid on a constant basis. Only weakness he has is he lacks some lateral quickness, but still, he just dominates guys constantly. Play to play, dominates on the defensive line for Georgia. Second guy, Mazi Smith, defensive tackle from Michigan, 6'3", 337 pounds. This guy is a freak athlete for his size. He's a little undersized for that defensive tackle position, but still super strong. He projects as an NFL nose tackle, but I think he can move into that 3 technique or that 1 technique for the Bears on the defensive line. He's a really talented guy, really athletic guy. I like Mazi Smith out of Michigan. The next guy is Tuli Tuipulotu from USC, another defensive tackle. He's a projected 2nd-round pick. You should see the Bears pick this guy up in the 2nd round. His best move is that spin move. He has a great spin move. He is a relentless pass rusher. He can play inside and outside. He's really versatile. I like this guy coming out of USC for the Bears to pick up in one of those later rounds, 2nd or 3rd rounds. Next guy is Gravon Dexter, defensive tackle from Georgia. This guy is a freak of nature. 6'6", 303 pounds, former five-star recruit. I absolutely love this guy. He needs some work on his technique. He needs some coaching at the next level, but still, freak athlete, super strong, super quick, so fast for his size. He should be a top 20 pick. So this could be one of those guys you could see if the Bears trade out of that number 2 pick and pick up a couple extra picks in the first round. This could be a guy you could see the Bears pick up, Gravon Dexter. All right, let's get into some edge rushers. The Bears also need some defensive ends to match that defensive tackle position, starting with the cream of the crop, Will Anderson, defensive end from Alabama. If this guy would have came out last year, which he couldn't have because he was only a sophomore, but if he did, he would have been the number 1 pick overall. 6'4", 245 pounds. Some people say he's a little undersized for his position, but that doesn't matter. 35.5 sacks over 3 seasons. He is the stud of this defensive line class. Doesn't have the freak size, but he makes up for it with his strength and his motor. He has a great motor, doesn't stop, dominates tackles in college football in that SEC. Absolutely gets whatever he wants. Absolutely relentless. Should be a top 3 pick. So Bears could be in the hunt for him at that number 2 pick if they want to take Will Anderson. But the guy I would look at, my best player in this draft, is Myles Murphy, the defensive end from Clemson. 6'5", 275 pounds, freak athlete for his size, gets off the line of scrimmage extremely fast. He's a physical specimen. So much upside for this guy. I mean, he has a great bull rush move. He needs to polish some of those other pass rush moves. But, this guy is unbelievable for his size. Great speed, great strength. NFL comp for me for this guy would be like Mario Williams. And then a top-end ceiling guy, Julius Peppers. Watch out for Myles Murphy, defensive end out of Clemson. I really like this guy. Some honorable mentions. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle for Illinois. I've watched this guy all year. Great with his hands. Really good speed guy. He should be like a 3rd or 4th round guy. I would look at that, at Johnny Newton if I were the Bears. And then another guy I didn't mention, Brian Brassie, defensive tackle out of Clemson. He is another one of these first round guys, projected first round guys. Good size guy. The only reason I didn't mention him in my list is because he has some injury concerns, and I wouldn't really take a risk on him too high in the draft if I were the Bears. All right, let's look at Illinois football, a what could have been season for Illinois. Illinois finishes the regular season with a blowout win over Northwestern, a pathetic Northwestern team. And to me, it's just been a disappointment this year. I know they've been better than years past. Brett Bielema kind of turned this program around, but at the same time, looking back at it, after beating Iowa for the first time in 20 years, it felt like there was something special about this team. I mean, I was at that game against Minnesota, and you could kind of feel it. The fans were so excited about this team. We kind of thought we were going to get into that Big Ten championship game no matter what, because all we had to do was beat Purdue, and we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball against Michigan State, a not very good Michigan State team. Come back the next week, like I said, lose to Purdue. Could have sealed our fate and made it to the Big Ten championship game if we win that game. And then the next week they lose to Michigan, a team that is the best team in the Big Ten. And Illinois played with them all game and had the lead in the 4th quarter, but failed to get a first down and failed to close that game out. You know, looking back at it, all these losses, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, you could have won all these games. Illinois could very well be undefeated right now and heading into the Big Ten championship game with a lot of momentum and heading into those college football playoffs, I believe. But didn't work out for the team this year. They will play in probably some meaningless bowl game somewhere in Florida or Texas. We'll see what happens. Could be an interesting matchup. I'd like to see them play somebody like South Carolina, somebody like that. But to me, it's just kind of been a what could have been season for Illinois. We'll see what happens next year. Hopefully they can take another step and Brett Bielema can get some more talent because they're going to have to replenish some of that talent on defense. They're going to lose some guys like Witherspoon and Newton. So we'll see what happens next year and see what happens with this bowl game coming up here in a few weeks. All right, let's talk about some Chicago baseball. We don't talk a lot of baseball on Sucker Free, but we're going to cover it now. Jose Abreu, he ends up signing a 3-year, $60 million deal with the Houston Astros. The former White Sox first baseman, he was beloved all around Chicago, won the MVP 2 years ago. I think Houston might have overpaid a little bit for this guy. 3 years, $60 million, $20 million a year for a guy who's 36 years old. We'll see what happens there, but rumor has it that the Chicago Cubs and Jed Hoyer offered him 2 years, $40 million. So same amount of money per year, just one less year. I like Jose. It would have been fun to see him come to Chicago for the Cubs, but he ends up going to Houston. So the Cubs are still looking for their first baseman and shortstop in free agency. They've been rumored looking for shortstop and a first baseman all offseason, but they have yet to sign anybody. Some possible names here at shortstop. Xander Bogaerts. He is my number one option for the Cubs. I really like this guy at shortstop and what he's done for the Red Sox the past few years. Quick guy, really good defensive guy. You could see him try to be moved to the outfield here these next few years as he gets up there in age, but I really like Xander Bogaerts. Dansby Swanson, he's kind of one of these lower-level guys in free agency. He's played for the Atlanta Braves last few years. He's a good player. Trey Turner from the Dodgers, you're going to have to pay this guy a lot of money, but he is one of these top shortstop guys along with Carlos Correa. So we'll see what happens. If it was up to me, though, I would go after Xander Bogaerts. Give him some money, get some talent here on the north side, and get this team back to respectability. As far as first baseman go, Cody Bellinger, he was a big prospect coming up with the Dodgers there for a couple years. Kind of fell off the cliff the last couple years a little bit, but still, he's a good player. He's been rumored there for the Cubs to come in and play first baseman. Josh Bell and Trey Mancini are a couple other guys you could look for. So we'll see what happens. I think the Cubs are still a ways away from being a competitive team and being a team that competes for the World Series. But they do have a lot of money to spend in the offseason. Jed Horace kind of built that farm system back up to a little bit of respectability, but they're still a few pieces away, I think. Still some pitching away. So we'll see what happens. I think they do end up signing some guys here in the offseason and get this team back to some form of respectability. All right, let's do a new segment here. We're going to do a top 10 list. I love lists. If you know me, I love doing lists. This list is going to be the best jerseys in sports. I'm only doing current uniforms. No throwbacks unless it is a team's current throwback in the rotation. Starting off with number 10, I'm going with North Carolina basketball and those Carolina blue, light blue uniforms. They're the only team in sports that has their own color named after their team. It's a classic look going back to Jordan to now. They've updated it. Really clean look. Put that Jordan logo on there and match it with some retro Jordan shoes. Really nice look. I like North Carolina basketball at number 10. At number 9, I'm going with the LA Lakers classic yellow home jerseys. I'm not the biggest Lakers fans, but you got to admit, these jerseys are clean. The gold with the purple, it's a timeless look. Lakers are one of the classic teams. I really like that look for the Lakers. At number 8, I'm going with the New York Yankees home pinstripes. Another classic look, another timeless look. You'll see here with my list, I like some of these more classic looks, simple looks. Not like the Oregon and other teams like that. I'm going with more of these classic looks. At number 8, the New York Yankees and their home pinstripes. At number 7, I'm going with the Cincinnati Reds and their home white uniforms. Really clean look, and that C logo on the hat. I love those hats. They actually invented that classic C, the same C that the Bears use. Looks really good with that red. I like the Cincinnati Reds white uniforms. At number 6, I'm going with the Chicago Blackhawks home red uniforms. The best logo in sports. You hear a lot of people say it. It actually is. That chief they have on their jerseys is the best logo in sports, and those jerseys are really clean. I like the Chicago Blackhawks at number 6. At number 5, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines blue uniforms. They've updated it here the past few years. They're kind of going with an all blue look. Looks super cool to me. I love those helmets. It's a super clean look, classic look. They've had it for years now. I really like Michigan's uniforms. It's something that's different. It's not just a logo on the helmet. It's that Wolverine pattern on their helmet. I like Michigan at number 5. At number 4, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers current throwback red uniforms. They're kind of the throwbacks to the 70s and 80s 49ers. It's another classic look, man. The numbers look cool. The stripes on the sides of the jerseys look cool. That red with the gold and the gold helmets, really nice look. At number 3, I'm going with the Boston Celtics white uniforms. I could have went white or green here, but I really like the white uniforms. It's a classic look that hasn't changed over the years. It just, it's a timeless uniform that goes year to year. They never change it. I like Boston Celtics white uniforms. At number 2, this is an underrated uniform here. The Oakland Raiders white unis. Super clean look. with the silver helmets with the one black stripe and the plain white uniforms with the silver pants. I love that uniform combination for the Oakland Raiders. Not the biggest fan of that team, but those uniforms are super clean. And at number 1, you got to go with the Chicago Bulls red uniforms. Yeah, maybe I'm a little biased here, but to me it's the best looking sports. It's simply perfect. Kind of created it there with Jordan in the 90s when they went to this, look with the Bulls with that really cool logo they have and that diamond pattern on the shorts. Really cool, really good uniform with the red and white. I like the Chicago Bulls at number 1. All right, comment below to tell me what jerseys I missed, which ones should be on the list, which ones should be off my list, and let me know in the comments what you think. All right, let's get into some sucker-free Bulls talk here.
This is a sucker-free sports talk production. Bulls talk.
Bulls continue to be an absolute embarrassment, a disappointment to the city. They start this West Coast trip and they lose to OKC, come back to beat Utah, the Utah Jazz, and then completely get embarrassed on Wednesday night against the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker drops 51 points, could not miss. He absolutely torched Pat Williams and Alex Caruso. He only played 3 quarters and he had 51 points. I mean, this guy was pretty unbelievable to watch. Watching Booker made me think of how nice it must be to have a superstar, a young superstar on your team, a max player who just plays the game the right way and is so smooth. Every time he shoots the ball, you think it's going in. Must be nice to have a guy like that instead of what we have in Zach LaVine. Zach continues to be a disappointment this season. In my opinion, he's one of the most overpaid players in sports. You gave him the max contract this offseason. I questioned that decision, and every other person in sports media in Chicago was like, well, you got to pay him. You can't lose him for nothing. You can't lose him for nothing. Baloney. What this guy has done this season has been an absolute travesty. Making over $200 million and week to week, game to game. He's putting up terrible field goal percentage, not shooting the ball well, not being aggressive. He's not even a two-way player. He doesn't play defense. He looks lost on defense. And then he has the nerve to come out a few weeks ago and question Billy Donovan for benching him. How about play better, Zach? How about play like Devin Booker, a real NBA max player? What you're not. Step it up, man. Sick of seeing it. Booker and Ayton were dominant, unlike Vooch and LaVine. Bulls didn't shoot good. They have too many games where they just come out shooting threes, not moving the ball, and their shots aren't going in and they just continue to shoot. No, if your shot's not going in, then attack the basket. They don't have anybody that does that. Only guy I really respect on this team is DeMar DeRozan. Game to game, he comes in ready to play in the right way. I know you have other guys like Javonte Green, role players, and Alex Caruso, but your only star player who is anyone of respectability is DeMar DeRozan, in my opinion. Everybody else can go shit in a hat for all I care. After Pat Williams had some good games there, he was getting some national notoriety, some Chicago press notoriety. Kind of dropped the ball these last 2 games. He only had 2 points last game against the Suns, 5 points against the Jazz. You got to do better, Pat. Got to instill some more confidence in him if you're Billy Donovan, in my opinion. Will he ever turn the corner this year? I don't know. You see it week to week, just a lack of aggressiveness and a lack of confidence. I don't know what's going on there. And then a report came out that Billy Donovan signed a contract extension in the offseason. What are we doing here? That sounds like a John Paxson move to me. I don't know if that was Arturas Kornacevich that made that decision, but why are you giving Billy Donovan an extension? He had 2 years left on his contract. What has Billy showed as an NBA coach? Except that he can bring a team to the playoffs and lose in the first round. What has he shown? He hasn't done anything for the Bulls, really, except bring them back to the playoffs and then get embarrassed by the Milwaukee Bucks. He's done a terrible job with player development, in my opinion. Guys like Kobe White and Pat Williams have not gotten any better under his helm. Certain guys like Javonte Green have gotten a little bit better, but the guys you need to be good haven't gotten any better under Billy Donovan, and then you give him a contract extension. From what I hear, they added 4 more years onto his contract. His player rotations have been all over the place too. Game to game, you see it. Like, he'll play Derrick Jones Jr. for 5 minutes, then he'll play Goran Dragic for a little bit, take him out for Kobe White, then put in somebody else. His bench has been all over the place. Guys don't know their roles. Guys don't know what they're doing. You got to establish roles on this team, and if you want to play Kobe White, then play him. Or if you want to play Goran Dragic, then give him the minutes. You have to pick somebody. If you want to give Derrick Jones the minutes over Pat Williams, then do it. Don't play around with this, because this team is not good right now, and guys do not know their roles. And the Bulls are in one of the worst spots in the league where they're in the middle of the road and they're not in the sweepstakes for Victor Wembanyama, and they're not one of these teams that can win a championship. They're not competitive for a championship right now. They're nowhere close to that. You saw it Wednesday night against the Phoenix Suns. Bulls will move on to play the Golden State Warriors on Friday. You got to watch out here if you're the Bulls. If you're not prepared, if you don't come out shooting, if you shot like you did last week against the Suns, you could get embarrassed Friday night in Golden State. All right, this is my sucker-free poll question of the week. Should the Bulls ride with Billy Donovan, or should they let him go, forget about the contract, and just cut him for the rest of the season and go find somebody else? Guys out there like Quinn Snyder, Frank Vogel, Kenny Atkinson, or a guy like Mark Jackson, I might prefer one of these guys over Billy Donovan at this point. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Should the Bulls ride with Billy Donovan, or should they cut ties with him this season? All right, let's get into some shit that pisses me off.
I hate this fucking shit.
Pickleball. What is going on with pickleball? You know, I see it, the popularity starting to rise here these last few weeks. You know, I have nothing against the sport, but it's an old man sport. It's what old men play at the YMCA at 7 a.m. And out of nowhere, it just became this national sport where everybody's playing. It's the new fad. And, you know, just to show you I'm not a heartless prick, I have selfish reasons why I don't like pickleball. At my gym in Chicago, which I pay a fortune, I don't even want to tell you how much I pay for it, they demolished one of the basketball courts and put up a pickleball arena. What are we doing here? Is this really that big of a sport? It takes no athleticism. It's a simple game. If you want to play a real sport like that, play tennis, play racquetball. But pickleball, really? And you can tell it's just a fad because everybody playing the sport wears the same exact thing. They all have their little Roka shoes and their light blue t-shirt with their Lululemon shorts. They all wear the same thing because they're all about fads. That's why they're playing pickleball, because everybody's doing it. I'm at the gym the other day, and they have a pickleball tournament, and everybody in the gym is talking about, oh, did you see the tournament? Did you see everybody playing pickleball? Yeah, I don't care. I don't like it. Not a real sport. Pickleball, that's some shit that pisses me off. What else we got going on here around Chicago? Some side notes. Illinois basketball has been playing pretty well. They lost to number 3 Virginia, but still are ranked number 16th in the country. They beat Syracuse the other night. I actually like this Illinois basketball team. They got some really good talent, some really good transfer players. You know, I think they could get better going into later in the season. They got some young guys like Sky Clark. If you see them improve, I think Illinois could compete and possibly be a Final Four team and get over that playoff hump that they've been stuck in the last few years. Chicago Blackhawks, they are shit. They are bad like every other Chicago team. 6-12-4. They can score pretty well. Defense sucks. Goaltending sucks. They're bad. Chicago sports, like I always say, this year, it's just been a really crappy year to watch sports in Chicago. Not good for business. But, like always, we're real sports fans, and we will continue to watch. All right, with that, thank you for joining Sucker Free Sports Talk. And like always, if you like this show, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. And remember, if you're going to talk sports, always keep it sucker free.